Nothing quite says comfort food like the perfectly baked dinner roll. It's piping hot out of the oven, maybe brushed with a little bit of butter, and when you bite into it, it just melts in your mouth. And what makes it even better is if you have the bragging rights to say that you made it completely from scratch, homemade, none of that store-bought frozen dough from Walmart. Today, we're gonna show you how to make the perfect homemade crescent-shaped dinner rolls. They're super easy, and I think you're gonna really enjoy this recipe. Let's get rolling. Hey guys, so welcome back to A Pinch of Patience. I do just want to apologize up front for the lighting that's going to be in this video. It's kind of a little bit more on the dreary side outside today in Kansas. So I do normally use the natural lighting from my window to help me when I film. I do not have studio lighting yet, but someday I will. But today is not that day. So we just kind of had to roll with it. So I hope you guys don't mind the wonky lighting there. But we're going to get into it. This is our refrigerator crescent roll recipe. It's one that has been in my family for years and years. It's our go-to recipe when it comes to holiday dinners, potlucks, and get-togethers. It's super easy. I love that you can mix the dough up the night before and put it in the refrigerator, and then you can roll it out the day of and have these nice, fresh, piping hot dinner rolls. I also love that it is a no-knead recipe. You do not have to knead the dough, which is great for first-time bread makers. It makes it a little bit less intimidating on that end. So let's get into it. This is the refrigerator crescent roll recipe. All right, well, we are going to start with just a package of active dry yeast, and we're going to add some water here in a bit. Now, one mistake that a lot of beginning bread makers make is that their water is not the correct temperature. So I just like to stick my finger in my water just to kind of test it out there. You want it to be about how you would like a nice warm bath or a hot shower, about anywhere from 95 to 105 degrees. So we're just going to add 3 tablespoons here. If your water's too cold, your yeast will not activate, and if your water is too hot, it will actually kill your yeast. So you want to make sure that it's the right temperature, and we're just going to kind of mix this in real quickly, making sure that all those yeast particles are touching some sort of water. And then I just like to cover mine with a towel just so it can have a nice warm environment to dissolve. And we're going to set this aside for about 10 minutes. And in the meantime, we're going to go ahead and mix up our other ingredients. So in a separate bowl, you're going to add half a cup of sugar and half a cup of shortening. Either white shortening or butter flavored shortening is just fine. Butter flavored is what I had on hand today. And then you're also going to add 1 teaspoon of salt. And you will just cream these all together in a bowl. Alright, and when you're done creaming it, this is what it should look like. You shouldn't see any clumps of shortening anywhere. Both ingredients should be very well incorporated. So in a third bowl, we're just going to crack 2 eggs and scramble these up really quickly, just so that they're nice and whipped before we add them in. Then you'll just add these into your bowl of creamed sugar, and we're going to mix these up. And just a reminder to make sure to scrape your spoon off kind of halfway through mixing, making sure that we get all those clumps of shortening off and into the bowl. That way everything gets mixed up nice. All right, so it has been about 10 minutes, so we're gonna take our yeast mixture. As you can see, that yeast is nice and fermented. See how foamy it is, almost like a froth. I'll take my spoon here and show you. There are no granules of yeast in here at all anymore, so this is perfect. So we're going to add these 2 mixtures together, and just make sure you get all of the yeast mixture. We want as much yeast as possible so we can have nice fluffy rolls. And you're just going to mix this all up here. Lots of mixing in this recipe. After this is all mixed, you will have a few clumps in there, and that is totally fine. Now we're going to add 1 more cup of water. Again, this water should be the same temperature that I talked about earlier in the video, almost like a bath water. And you'll see that this is starting to clump together even more. That is totally fine. That's the way it should look, all that fermented yeast. And now we're going to add 4 cups of flour. And we'll mix this all up. And as you are mixing this up, you'll notice that it's becoming tougher and tougher to mix. The dough is all coming together in a ball, and that's exactly what you want. This is so perfect. As I mentioned earlier, this is a no-knead recipe. You don't have to knead the dough. You're just using your spoon to do that job instead of your hands, which is awesome. So you're just going to mix this all in the bowl here. I'm going to pick this up with my hands and just kind of show you what this should look like. This is a nice bread dough. This is going to be so yummy. As you can see, there's no dry patches of flour. It's not sticky at all. It is good to go. And I love this recipe because there's literally no guesswork. When you have a bread dough that you have to put out on the counter with flour and knead, there's kind of a question as far as how much flour do you use, and there's just that gray area there. But this one, if you just follow the recipe, you should be good to go. And then you'll just want to stick the dough in a large bowl. I'm using my crock pot today, and you will cover it and stick it in the fridge for 3 hours, or you can even do it overnight if you're making it the day before. All right, so here is my dough. It's been sitting in the fridge for about 3 hours. It's not going to be super fluffy yet. It's going to be rather cold, obviously, since it's been in the fridge. But the yeast has been at work. Trust me on this. We'll have more time to rise here in a little bit. So I'm just going to roll mine out into a log, and we're going to separate it into 3 pieces here. And you could set 2 of those aside, and then you'll just take one and make sure that it's as round as possible in a disc, just to help us with rolling out here. All right, then you'll just want to flour your surface, and we'll get rolling on this dough here. We're just going to roll it into a great big circle. Now, I did have a hard time rolling this. I'm not sure why. I don't know if it's because it was a yeast dough and I'm used to working with cookies and pies. My rolling pin did keep bumping up against what I'm using to prop my camera up with too. I just had such a hard time getting it into a circle. So it's a little bit of a weird shape, but that's okay. It still works for us. So you're going to cut this into 12 pieces, or you could do 8 pieces if you wanted a little bit of a bigger crescent roll. And then you're just going to take the wide edge of these wedges and start rolling. And isn't that so cute? And you'll just put it on the pan. Now I like to curve my edges just to make it have that classic crescent shape. Now these are not to be mistaken with croissants. A croissant is made with a flaky pastry dough with all those flakes. These are not croissants. There is a difference. These are crescent rolls, which is just a yeast dough in the shape of a crescent. You want to make sure as you're putting them on the pan that the tail end is on the bottom. That way when they bake, you don't have these tails sticking up. I did grease my pan before I put these rolls on, so you want to make sure you do that as well. And then you'll want to cover these with plastic wrap, and we're going to leave these out on the counter for at least 3 hours. You could do up to 5 hours, and we're going to let them finish rising. And then don't forget about your other 2 lumps of dough that you separated out. You can cut those out and put those on a pan as well. So if you cut your dough into 12 pieces, then this will make 36 rolls, or like I said, you can cut them into 8 pieces and make a little bit larger rolls, and that will do 24 for you. Alright, so a few minutes before you want to bake your rolls, you'll want to make sure you preheat your oven to 400 degrees. And here are my rolls. They've been sitting out on the counter for about 3 hours now. They are nice and fluffy to the touch, much bigger than what they were when I put them on the pan. And supper is just about ready, so I'm ready to pop these babies in the oven. And you will want to bake these for 8 to 10 minutes. All right, here they are. These have been in for about 10 minutes. And look at that beautiful golden brown on top. These smell amazing coming out of the oven. You can brush some melted butter on top to make them even more yummy and have that nice shiny gloss on top. Hope you guys enjoyed that tutorial. I would love to know in the comment section below, how do you eat your crescent rolls? Do you like them with just butter, maybe some butter and jam, maybe some honey? Or are you like my dad and do you eat them plain but dipped in gravy? Let me know how you like your crescent rolls below, and I will see you guys back next Friday for our next baking tutorial. Make sure you subscribe so that you don't miss a thing. We'll see you guys later.